Hello, thank you for joining us. So we have Ahmar today from Student Finance England who's going to be answering some questions that have been sent in. So we're just going to kick straight off with the first one. So I'm in year 11 and I'm planning my finances for when I finish college, but I'm worried things will have changed by the time I'm applying for university. Is it worth planning this far in advance, or are finance options likely to change a lot in this time?
Thank you very much, Jess, for having me. And that's a great question, actually. It's great to see students as young as year 11 starting to think about their higher education transition and what that journey would mean for them. I never think it's too early to start thinking about student finance. And with regards to how we currently sit in our student funding model, current system that exists will still be in place for at least another academic year, and anybody that is in year 11 will potentially be looking at starting university in 2028, I would imagine. And so we are shifting to a new system. So early research, early thinking about what higher education funding will look like at that point is definitely a good thing. And there will be more information on what this new HE funding system and model will look like in the next few days. And there will be some broadcasting around the webinars. And in the next few weeks and months, we'll be doing further road shows to talk to schools and colleges and to staff who support young people as to what that model will look like and how students can start thinking early on. So in simple terms, yes, start thinking about your higher education journey early, not just your UCAS, but your student finance as well, and how student finance will help inform that decision.
Brilliant, thank you. The next question we've got, I'm not sure if university is for me, but should I apply for student finance anyway, just in case? Can I cancel this or confirm the application when I decide?
Another good question, and a question that we get asked quite a lot, definitely with our contact centre, and a lot of the work that I do with universities and colleges up and down the country, it's a question that not only parents but students ask me as well. I think if a student is not yet certain about their journey after their level 3 qualification and are wondering whether they should make an application for student finance, I would certainly encourage that, simply because if you do an application for student finance, it doesn't mean that we're going to release any money to you. You have to have physically enrolled, registered and started university before any money is released. If you have the application in place in time for starting university and choose not to go to university, that's fine. You have a couple of options. You can either call us and have that application deleted. You can delete it yourself, or you can leave it in place as a completed application. And if you're deferring for the following academic year, at least you've already done your application and then complete it the following year.
That's brilliant, thank you. Next one, if my parents' finances change just before I'm about to start university, meaning they can no longer afford to contribute, how would this affect the maintenance loan I will receive?
So the maintenance loan is provided based on household income assessment. So when a student makes an application for student finance, both for the tuition fee loan and the living cost loan, which is the maintenance loan, the tuition fee loan goes directly to the university, and that's not assessed against any household income or parental income. If you're eligible and entitled to it, you get the tuition fee loan. The maintenance loan works very differently. There are different strands of maintenance loan, whether somebody's staying at home and studying at a local university, studying elsewhere, or going into London, the City of London, to study at a university. The way that we assess what somebody may be entitled to is based on the parental household income. It could be one parent or both parents or a cohabiting partner and a parent. If a parent's income changes after an application has been submitted, we have a system in place called a current year income assessment form. So the application has been submitted. Much later down the line, a parent's personal circumstances change. And we saw this during the 2 years COVID lockdown period, where a lot of people lost their jobs or had to be furloughed or had to go to part-time. A student can then complete a current year income assessment form informing us of what the income in the current year is rather than the previous tax year that had already been declared. And what we do is we reassess the application based on that information. And then at the end of that tax year, we ask for the full evidence of what was earned.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you. So for students who are wanting to apply for university in the next academic year, when should they start to apply for their student
Good question. So we often have to wait until the government releases the launch date for student finance. In the last 2 academic years, it's always been around the first week of March. I can't be any more specific than that at this very moment in time. It's quite early in the new academic year. But it's never too early to actually start thinking about higher education and student finance, or start to do the planning through gov.uk. There's a student finance calculator, and there'll be a lot of campaigns, not only from Student Finance England, but also from colleges and universities, telling students when student finance launches. But in the academic year next year, it will be around either late February or early March. We could toss a coin as to see when it would be, but it's generally around that late February, early March time that we launch. And we have a early submission soft timeline, which is often the middle of May. So we do give students around 14 weeks to complete a student finance application form. And you may think that's not a lot of time, but on average, those students that get their application forms in very early, between the March and April and May timeline, it takes about 30 minutes to do your student finance application form, and that's it, if I'm absolutely honest. Assuming there's no complications in the application itself or anything that we request from the student or the parent as part of their assessment. But as early as possible when we do launch, please do complete your application when we launch. As I said, it doesn't take very long to do it.
So during our outreach support, we've noticed an increase in questions around disability support. Could you let us know what support is available out there?
Very good question. And what we've noticed certainly post-pandemic is a high volume of students that are applying for what we have, the Disabled Student Allowance, the DSA. And it's an important part of the core application for tuition fee and maintenance loan. It's not a separate application, it's all part of one digital application. And the DSA is in place to help students that present a learning barrier for their studies whilst at university. So that could be something like a physical health condition, a long-term medical health condition. The number 1, 2, and 3 that is consistently reported to us on an application are things like dyslexia, dyspraxia, and mental health conditions. And so what we do is we try and encourage in all of our communication and our campaigns that if a student or a parent or a teacher is aware that a student has a condition, that is actually declared on our student finance application form. What that does is it prompts a list of further questions as part of the online application, whereby a student can then list what the condition is, and then a process follows. I won't go into what the full process is because it can be quite lengthy, but the important point that you make there is that the question is being asked. And I would say that because it's being asked, there is monetary support available in the form of an allowance. It's not a loan, so it doesn't have to be repaid if you qualify for it. And for the academic year of 25-26, which is the current academic year start, it is just shy of £28,000 a year, or up to 28, depending on your disability and what needs you may have for your studies whilst you're in higher education. So yes, if you believe you have a disability or a learning barrier that will prohibit some of the opportunities whilst you're in higher education, please tick the box on our student finance application form and let the process follow through to establish whether you're entitled to that DSA allowance.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. And another question is, what's one myth that you could bust for us?
Okay, I could be here all afternoon answering the questions on myth. But one I do get asked quite a lot from parents at parents' evenings is, and they naturally and rightly so worry about whether their son or daughter is going to be able to find a graduate job when they leave university. What will their financial circumstances be like? Can they afford to pay back the student loan that they've taken once they went to university? But one of the myths that was recently asked of me was by a father for his son who's going to university, who should have started university this year, by saying, when my son comes out of university, will I need to help support him buying a home because he won't be able to afford it because he went to university? And I found that quite interesting as a question, as a parent myself. So I found it quite interesting that a father was thinking that they would have to help with either a deposit or whatever. If a parent wishes to do that, by all means, but you're not negatively impacted because you've got a student loan. It doesn't go on your credit file. It won't be wiped off after 6 years. It's an affordability checker when you go into a bank or a building society and apply for a mortgage. No different to saying, I spend a lot of money on coffee every month, or I go to the cinemas, or matcha seems to be the new drink, or I spend £100 a month on clothing. The affordability checker is to ask, how much outgoings do you have? And what we must remember is that many graduates who will come out of university in their first job will more than likely be below the threshold of repayment and therefore not repaying any student loan out of their salary or their wages. And they will only do it once they're above a certain threshold, and then it's 9% of the difference of what their gross salary is and what the threshold at the time that they come out of university. So the actual repayment can be as low as about £20 a month, and it can be as high as about £80 a month. That's what a bank will take into consideration whether affording you a mortgage or not.
Brilliant, thank you very much. So next question we have from the student is, I'm not a UK resident. How do I find out if I'm eligible for student finance?
Yeah, good. I've been spending a lot of time recently dealing with sixth form colleges and schools around this. It seems to be a topic that is very hot at the moment. In order to be able to draw down public purse money, student loan money, you have to have a UK nationality or settled status, okay? Which means there are no restrictions on how long you can live in the United Kingdom. Mm-hmm. If you have restrictions, we encourage you to get in touch with Student Finance England on the helpline and speak to one of our advisors who can talk you through it in more detail. If you believe you may or may not be entitled to student finance, again, there is a lot of information available from gov.uk/student finance. You can speak to universities as well, the admissions teams and international offices that have a lot of experience with dealing with students who may or may not be entitled to money from the student loans company. But it's very important that students who may feel that they are here and have been here for a long time, or that their parents are here working on certain visas, start to research this very early on, because what you don't want to happen is that you get to the end of your level 3 studies and you then make an application on UCAS to go to university. And the university says, well, actually, you're an international student by our assessment. Then you get in touch with us and we say, well, actually, you're not entitled to any student funding from us until you meet a certain criteria or your visa status changes. So again, a very good question, and one I would certainly encourage students to start looking at very early on if there are any concerns about their residency status.
Brilliant, thank you. I think that'll help a lot of students out. The next question we have is from a parent. So, are the parental contribution thresholds likely to be adjusted in line with inflation in the future?
So by that, I'm assuming you mean at the moment, depending on the maintenance loan, is based on the income of the household. So below £25,000, which is a government measure, somebody would be entitled to the full rate of maintenance loan. There is no household income assessment done against 25,000 and below. After 25,000, up to the various tapers that can go as high as 62,000 plus, there are some tapers. It's a good question. SLC doesn't control the policy. The policy is made by central government. And at the moment, the tapers that are in place between 25,000 and upwards of 60,000 are still in place for the academic year 25-26. We are awaiting different information, if there is likely to be any, from the government for what will be for 26-27. But at the moment, I cannot say that there is likely to be any change for those tapers for household incomes.
Okay, thank you. We've got a couple of questions about studying abroad.
Yeah.
So I'm a UK-based undergraduate degree student with a year studying abroad. How do the maintenance and tuition fee loan work whilst I'm away? Okay,
so the tuition fee, if somebody's doing a study abroad year with the university, first of all, it has to be a study abroad as part of their UK-based programme. The tuition fee is capped at 15% of that year, so the university cannot charge the full rate as if they were still studying here in the United Kingdom. So that's a 15% cap for a study year. If it's a placement year, it's capped at 20%, if it's a full year. With regards to the maintenance loan, the amount of assessed maintenance loan for somebody who goes on a study abroad year is higher than what it would be if they were staying in the United Kingdom in their second year or their third year. And so what we do is there is a percentage breakdown. And it's important to say we can't say what somebody would get because we don't know what everybody's personal circumstances are of their household income. But the breakdown is between 48% of non-means tested, which means that's a guaranteed amount, and a 52% of the total amount, which has to be assessed against household income. So there is a higher amount available for a student going abroad by the very nature of they'll be living overseas, there will be extra rent, there'll be extra cost potentially involved. So it's somewhere in the region of up to £12,000 a year that somebody would be able to draw down. But again, that has to be assessed like other assessments for the year that they're in the United Kingdom studying against that household income. But the split is 48% and 52%.
Okay, thank you. And the second studying abroad question we have is, are there any additional student finance options available to help me to cover costs while studying abroad?
Bank of Mum and Dad, I'm sorry, but no, because Student Loans Company provides funding through the Student Finance England organisation for UK residents who wish to either study here in the United Kingdom, and if they're going abroad for their placement year or their study abroad year, then there is money available from us for that. Outside of that, it's a good question, because outside of that, there are going to be additional costs involved with being in Europe or America or Australia. What we do find is that many students still work part-time when they're in the country of doing their study abroad year as well, like the 60+% that work here whilst they're in study in the United Kingdom. So it's a good question, and it's a question that students who are considering a study abroad year need to think about very, very carefully, that once they're aware of the assessment for their maintenance loan entitlement from us, from the Student Loans Company, what other additional costs are going to be incorporated with studying abroad? Speak to their university, speak to their student finance office within the university, speak to the university that they're actually going to overseas and say, are there any bursaries, grants, scholarships that you can assist with regards to supplementing that support that I will get from Student Finance England whilst I'm in your country studying with you as well.
Perfect, thank you. And we just have a couple of questions from supporting staff as well.
Yes.
So the first one being, many students we work with don't have parents around all the time, in brackets, armed forces families, young carers or care experienced. Can they support filling out student finance when parental figures aren't available?
By that I'm thinking you mean, is there actually any hands-on support with these young people who are in more vulnerable positions to be able to complete their application? We do have a dedicated student advisor helpline, so students can use that. There are organizations, you mentioned care leavers and vulnerable young carers. There are organizations like Propel, Become Charity Trust, that work tirelessly to help these young people to understand the full transition into higher education. So there's a lot of support from that point of view as well. But what I have found in my time is that the universities are great at helping students within sixth form schools and colleges who do pose that more vulnerability and being able to understand what it takes to make a successful application to university. But equally, yes, they can call our student advisor helpline and they'll be able to talk them through whatever support they need with regards to completing an application form.
Brilliant, thank you. And the final question. Some universities, notably Oxbridge, strongly encourage their students not to get part-time work during term time and to focus on their studies instead. Can SFE do anything to financially help students at these prestigious universities?
Outside of the maintenance loan, I'm afraid, as I've said, no, because obviously the money that we provide is based on household income assessment, okay? There are times that somebody might be entitled to the full maintenance loan, and that's based on independent categories, like we've mentioned earlier, like care leavers, young carers, estranged individuals. You're right, Oxbridge does not encourage anybody to work part-time whilst they're studying on their academic studies, although a lot of students do work while they're at Oxbridge. But I think, again, conversations with whether it's Oxford or Cambridge as to what support they have in place in terms of bursaries and scholarships, especially where students are coming from more deprived backgrounds, underrepresented backgrounds, to see that if they've achieved that ambition of going to an Oxbridge institution, what support is available by that institution if they're not encouraging them to work to subsidise the income that they would have from Student Finance England. But as it stands, outside of the maintenance loan, no, but again, there are bursaries and scholarships from individual universities that do help students that do progress on to major Russell Group universities.
Amazing. Thank you so much for answering these questions for us.
You're more than welcome.
And I think you'll have helped a lot of students and also different sort of support staff as well that have been there. So
You're more than welcome. Thank you very much, Jess. Thank you. A pleasure.